Well, good morning. I'll be your Rod Stewart of the morning. We were last night in the restaurant Drömmeköken, which means dream kitchen, and I think it was a nightmare kitchen because my voice was completely lost. I had only one linea aquavit with pepper, and I think that we had it with pepper helped a bit so that I can make the speech now, even though it's a bit rusty. But esteemed colleagues, first of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute today in this very important future-shaping session for the best of the Arctic and the oceans. There are various proposed definitions for the ocean-based industries, and in this discussion we're going to have a broad scope where all ocean sea activities are taken into account. I will discuss the ocean-based industry potential, enlighten it with some practical examples, and make several proposals to support economic growth and simultaneously to preserve sound ocean and coastal environment. So let's start with the ocean industry's potential. According to the recent OECD report about ocean-based industries, they contribute roughly about $1.5 trillion, which is 2.5% of the global economy. This scale is on a similar level compared to the World Economic Forum estimation of Arctic investment potential, which is around $1 trillion. The biggest contributor for this is oil and gas, offshore around 35%, whereas marine and coastal tourism contribute 25%. Maritime equipment and port activities contribute around 25% together. Industrial marine aquaculture and industrial capture fishing provide around 1% each, whereas industrial fish processing is around 5%. However, industrial captive fisheries is the most important employer, with around 1/3 of the more than 30 million jobs provided by marine industries. The world population's growth brings around 2 billion more people to be fed by 2050. Simultaneously, urbanization and aging of the global population continues. Coastal areas will be more stressed due to people and activity movements towards shorelines. Various types of resource extraction and increased erosion due to climate change do occur. For example, Icelandic travel industry has already more than tripled in just 10 years. International seaborne trade is expected to double during the next 20 years. So here comes the first proposal. Travel industry has to create and commit to sustainability principles and to make sure that their customers also follow them. The responsibility would lie by travel agencies, tour operators, and accommodation service providers, not forgetting the airlines. A great example of such a work is the IECU's Arctic Cruise Line Operators Principles for Sustainable Arctic Cruise Industry. They provide ethical and practical advisory and guidelines for passengers visiting Arctic areas and communities. Let us take an example of tidal energy. The Arctic areas include places like in the Canadian archipelago where the tide might exceed 10 meters. There is a significant amount of kinetic energy absorbed into such a motion. Compared to wind or solar energy, it requires less space and does not disrupt the landscape. However, it is still expensive to install. And furthermore, clarifying environmental impacts like hydromagnetic effects require more research. An example of smart use of existing resources comes from Finnish maritime industry. Icebreaker Nordica assisted an energy company in their wave energy research and installment project on the Irish Sea some years ago, helping with underwater research. This is a smart use of all technologies to assist in planning new environmentally sound energy production. Decent work and economic growth and life below water are the two topical UN Sustainable Development Goals for sustainable oceans development. Life below water can be considered in this context as our increasing future protein provision. The share of aquacultural and fish-related businesses is expected to double by the next 20 years. Simultaneously, migration of fish species is already very visible in the Arctic. Fish species and marine mammals are migrating into new areas due to changes in ice sheet and water temperatures. Fishing industry is important for Iceland, and there has been significant changes in the species movement. This migration might change the job scene in the future. new skill and equipment are also needed. The agreement to ban illegal fishing in the high Arctic is an important example of steps being taken to preserve the fauna. WWF released a study protecting the Arctic ecosystem as new ocean blue economy emerged last November, and it states that the Arctic Ocean and its coastlines are home to 34 species of marine mammals, 363 species of fish, and 4 million people, including peoples and communities. What are the modern technologies and smart solutions to support the sustainable ocean development, especially in the Arctic areas? One example is improving efficiency in ship and cargo management by using smart technologies. And our final proposal here is aimed for the University of the Arctic, a network of universities working on Arctic research. This would be a thorough study of the expected increase in shipping in Arctic areas, using the global economic growth in ice prediction as a basis. Underwater implications of this increase have not been thoroughly studied yet. This is significant, taking into account the need of use to underwater resources in a rapidly increasing manner. To conclude, the ocean, including the Arctic Ocean, is a fundamental protein provider for the decades to come. Let's improve the conditions bearing this fact in mind. Otherwise, we might face a severe lack of protein. And I'm still Rod Stewart. Thank you.